All right, we've got chat, which means we are live. Hey guys, we'll wait for the room to fill up.
Why is it not showing up for me?
Because there is a 10-second delay. That's
No, I
why.
mean, why is the link?
I can leave
There we go.
studio if you want. There we go.
No, I found it.
I
Okay.
just got the notification thing.
So, we should probably post the link around a little bit. This is a terrible way to start a live stream that somebody might play back, but people are kind of used to us, like, fighting with OBS, so... Hey everyone, we're hoping people will start piling in pretty soon. But I will let Cingeto, since Cingeto was actually the one who sent me the videos that we were supposed to have already watched, before talking about this topic. Oh, we've got Rilla in the chat and Witchy Poo. So I will let him go ahead and, with breaths in between words preferably, explain today's topic.
I don't know. I think maybe the lack of oxygen might help here.
Ha ha, Calon.
Thank you. I mean, yeah. Basically, Starbucks Pagans is a term that Ocean came up with, and I love it. It's a play on the term Starbucks Christian. If you remember what that originally meant, it's basically describing a person who's all nice and pretty and seems all fine on the outside, but in the inside they're just cheap Starbucks coffee. And that's how it looks within these general Starbucks Pagans. When they show their content, it's all pretty, and they're in their nice rooms and everything, and it seems all family friendly and just nice and kind. But when you look at it, it's just very basic stuff, and it can also turn into very dangerous stuff, especially when it comes to self-worth and things like that within what they say, especially with things along the lines of the butchering of hermetic concepts to make the law of attraction.
So what you're saying these pagans
on.
are like what you're saying is these pagans are over roasted and far overrated.
Wait, hold up here. You mean I can't just like imagine something like really hard and it just comes into reality?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Yes.
No. You don't understand the quantum subspace fields thingy. Insert woo over here.
You don't understand the power of God. If you believe hard enough, you can make anything happen. You just have to have faith the size of a mustard seed and move mountains.
Via has joined the robot army. Did anybody else hear that?
God fucking damn it.
Via, I don't know if you should be cursing the gods here. I mean, that's not good.
I mean, if you were a certain somebody in the community, I'd be like, you should probably ask Hermes to help you out, but I'm not really sure who you'd ask.
So, Cingeto, what has your experience been with these Starbucks Pagans?
Well, I might end up having some on campus. I have a hunch that there are a few of them on campus, but I haven't met any. Most of my experiences with them have been through watching their terrible content and their actual weird crap online. Most of
have you encountered Thor's seventh astral child yet?
I really hope that's not a thing.
It is.
All right, Calon, you are now physically obligated to tell this story. Like you brought it up. You are now required to tell the story of Thor's astral baby.
Apparently there was, and I didn't see the post myself, but it was making the rounds. Apparently this woman believed that the child she was carrying was going to be Thor's seventh astral baby born under this particular sign. I forget what sign it was. Maybe like Aries. And yeah, that's a thing. Apparently there were a bunch of other astral children. And she, I guess, somehow got impregnated by the astral realm. Yeah.
So, just a quick side to the chat. Hello, Some Random Geek. Hello, Tony Designs. Welcome to the chat. So, Cingeto, there was one person in particular that you wanted to discuss, a particular channel. Now, unfortunately, I have not reset this up for responses yet, so I can't necessarily play the video at the same time yet. I'm still working on getting that stuff, like, going. But we can put a link in the live chat, and I can put links in the description, after, go edit everything, etc. Go ahead and talk about the channel that you brought to our attention that kind of brought this topic up.
Okay, well, there were two, and when we link them, I do want to make it clear, please do not go and bully this person or do anything along those lines, because...
Oh, absolutely not. If I hear one person in this community has gone after somebody in the name of Styx and Stonehenge, your ass is grass.
Yeah, do not do that, because that is not appropriate. Just because these people might be spewing stupid things, or even in sometimes dangerous things, do not go in and become a hateful person, and don't basically reciprocate bad things.
So don't attack unless you're attacked.
Pretty much.
Yeah, like, we don't need our fan base going after people. Like, we can go after ideas. We can go after ideas, and that's fine, but you don't need to go after people. Like,
now, there is an exception here.
We deal
Even
with enough
if you
of that
do go
shit.
after people, don't leave our name.
Well, there is one exception.
No. Like, don't go after people. Period.
There's one exception.
I'm just saying that, like, just in case you absolutely have to, then, like, don't say it's because of us. Because we don't want any of that shit.
Well, there's one exception. If the person is focused, do whatever you want. I don't care. Nazis get no frick.
Pick fight with Nazis all you want.
Anyhow, go on.
So, Cingeto, go ahead and describe the channel and such that we're talking about. I am going to pull the first link that you sent me, the Gem Goddess link, and I'm gonna pop that in the chat so that people kind of know what we're referencing.
Okie doke. First one was basically her butchering what quantum physics is and fusing it with self-help in a weird, mangled way, if that makes any sense. She's talking also I'm not even sure if this is real neurology, because I don't know much about neurology, but it sounds really fake. I mean, it could be possible, but it really sounds really fake.
Well,
and
did you watch the video in the entirety? Can you start to go over specifics? Woo is best debunked when you take individual ideas rather than general vagaries.
Okay. Well, the first idea was about she's calling it quantum physics, but the main idea it was more or less a part of quantum physics is what she was trying to get to, which was string theory and the multiple universes and things along those lines.
I have written sci-fi using that concept. It's more complicated than most woo peddlers understand, and also cannot be falsified. There is no way to observe whether or not that is true, so trying to apply it to reality is kind of silly at this point.
What she was saying is that every time you make a decision to do something, you're collapsing time and reality in on itself and creating a new universe and quantumly manifesting what you want.
Okay, that's not how the multiple dimensions in string theory works. That's not how that works, Woo Channel. It isn't.
She also described quantum physics as the science of learning potentiality, which is not what quantum physics is. Quantum physics is the fundamentals of physics, like quarks and Planck instances and things like that. Really tiny things.
Well, quantum physics is effectively trying to understand how things function, on the micro level. Like, beyond even atoms, you're talking about the forces of the universe that end up causing atoms and other things to form. You're talking about the, what could cause the spontaneous generation of a proton and an antiproton that may then collide. Like, that's the kind of shit you're talking about with quantum physics. It's some pretty high-level math, and anybody who claims to understand it who doesn't have multiple degrees is probably lying to you.
It's
somewhat
crazy.
A lot of it is also
I've tried to go super deep with that stuff, and I don't understand any of it.
So I guess probably the easiest way, or at least the most graspable way to understand it, is think a version of Newtonian physics, except everything's a probability function. And that's pretty much what it is, from what I've seen.
Yeah, it gets even more complicated than that. Like, I had a lot of it explained to me by an astrophysicist, and I still wasn't sure if I understood all of it, but I understood it well enough for sci-fi. Which is to say, on a bare bones enough level that I could create fiction out of it, which appears to be what this person is doing as well.
Yeah, just a particular type of fiction to attract a particular kind of audience and probably to make some kind of money.
Well, you see, the problem here is when you pull a frickin' what the hell is his name? Dianetics. I'm trying to remember.
Spirit science.
L. Ron Hubbard.
L. Ron Hubbard. When you pull an L. Ron Hubbard and write a fanfic and or novel and decide to pass it off as a religion, at that point you're peddling something quite dangerous, especially to poor, very desperate people who are the ones that are most likely going to be attracted by this sort of thing.
Well, I haven't watched some of these other videos I haven't watched, but I saw the title and I can already tell and retell why the title. Some of it was talking about how you can make yourself look better and be prettier and all that using quantum manifestation. This stuff does not seem healthy at all.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the boob enlargement spells and stuff you get in those 1,000 Wiccan spell books you can buy at like the bargain rack on Barnes & Noble.
That exists?
I wish it didn't.
Yeah, there's a lot of Wiccan stuff that you wish didn't exist.
I mean, there's this one book called 1,000 Spells that if you go through it, it has like fecal magic and blood magic in it, and some of it requires the handling of human blood from other people, which to me is a gigantic ethical no-no for more than one reason, not in the least which being, you don't know what's in that blood, dude.
I remember reading, never mind.
So anyway, back to the topic at hand, because, like, I'm fucking terrible, and I'm in a bad mood.
That was the first main issue part that I found with it. The other part was where she's talking about how you can trick your mind into making the imaginary real by manipulating your neural pathways by fake doing things, like practicing playing the piano without a piano and becoming an expert just by typing your fingers towards the notes you think are where they are.
What?
So, like tulpas?
I don't know what that is.
No, not like tulpas. Basically, you don't need a piano to practice. You can just imagine that the piano is in front of you.
A wolf
and
is in the
your hand will...
house.
Oh, hey, Ulfar.
We're discussing quantum manifestation.
Oh my goodness. All right, I'm gonna go.
we were discussing tulpas kind of too. We're discussing Woo and this one particular channel. Did you get a chance to check out the two videos that Cingeto posted?
No, I saw them posted, but I've just been so swamped with work. This is my first chance to like sit down.
That makes two of us.
Wait, you sit?
No, I've been swamped with work.
Oh. Okay. Never.
Yeah, I mean, like, here's one of the big problems with this kind of stuff. Not in the least. Not only is it trying to pass off faith as science, which makes it woo, but, like, it also is... It's kind of a lot of cultural appropriation, since most of this stuff actually has its roots in, like, appropriations upon appropriations of Jewish mysticism, among other things. Like, a lot of these groups and a lot of these people, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here, Cingeto, in the case of this video, a lot of these people like to take concepts from multiple religions and being like, all of these things, they were all saying the same thing, but they didn't say it as well as I did.
So we actually had a problem with somebody who came inside our server about a week or so ago. We had a guy come in and he was spouting off some crazy stuff similar to that. And we hammered him pretty hard about it. We drilled him down until he couldn't really... He just kept backing himself into corners and he couldn't explain anything that he actually believed in. And usually you can do that with these people. You can get them to admit that they're being intellectually dishonest because they don't have anything to back up what they're saying. It's all UPG. And I don't have anything against UPG, but their UPG will contradict itself.
Forcing UPG onto others.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's the issue.
For new viewers or viewers who may watch this on the playback, you guys want to do a quick overview of UPG, SPG, VPG for folks in the back that may not have heard us talk about these before?
Yeah, Ulfar can do that.
All right, so UPG is unverified personal gnosis. So it's feelings that you have spiritually that you can't really explain and you don't have any proof of. But you do know deep in your core, these are things that you believe in, even if nobody else believes in them. Then we move on to VPG, which is
I think
Verified personal
we'd
gnosis.
probably go to SPG
SPG.
next.
I'm sorry. SPG is the next step. So that would be shared personal gnosis. That's where, let's say you believe that Thor loves honeyed crackers
Oh, I know a good example.
for offerings, and you've never seen that in lore. You've never heard anybody else talk about it until one day somebody mentions, "Yeah, I was giving Thor some honeyed crackers," and you go, "Wait a minute, what?" And they say, "Yeah, I just had this feeling." Well, then now two people are sharing the same UPG, or at least similar to UPG. It could be like honeyed bread, not crackers. So maybe it's a little bit different.
Well,
But it's
another
very
example. Another example of SPG could be, a revelation or an experience that multiple people have with a particular god. Like if a whole bunch of Wiccans, say, gather in a ritual and they call a particular god into the circle, and they see something very similar or feel something very similar together, that could
Right.
be SPG as well.
Right,
Oh,
for sure. That's a big one though. That's rare to happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but something on that level of phenomenon is you're not going to have that very often. But something as simple as I've I've been given this message that this god likes this thing as an offering, but you don't have any evidence to back that up. But then somebody else also says, "Hey, I also do this thing." That becomes SPG. So then you two need to work together to try to figure out where is this coming from? Where in the lore might there be, and I'm talking specifically Norse because that's all I've got to go on. I'll say that way too many times when I come on these live streams that I really only have my own lore to go off of. But
That's all of us, Wolf. Like there's no
oh,
there's
for
no
sure,
reason to feel bad.
you
about
guys
that.
have much more documents than I do though to go off of.
Well,
Wait.
I mean, like we do and we don't.
Right.
The problem with Greek stuff is we have a lot of mythology and we have a lot of stories, but none of those were actually considered to be quote unquote canon because there isn't a canon because, like, everything is UPG in a lot of the Greek theology.
That makes sense.
And also, our practices weren't very well recorded because, like, the thing is, it's usually written as in the usual way. Like, Ocean mentioned that in his last video when he was talking about Gaia. Like, if it was common enough, nobody thought that it was important to write it down.
Right.
So, like,
Yeah, it was
reproducing...
so popular and so well known, nobody wrote it down, which is wild.
Yeah, so, like,
Well, not only that,
as many
but
documents
with,
as we have, like, reconstructing practice is very, very difficult.
well, not only that, with Norse in particular, the best evidence that we also have is that there was no standardization.
Right.
So, like, Odin
Well, in
being
Norse
the
culture,
Allfather.
the way families would worship, it would differ house to house, even in the same village. And so when people would come together for worship and ritual practice, when they would do group worship, they would have to travel. They might have to travel 20 miles to get to the ritual gathering place, and there might be 3 or 4 families, and all of those families would each believe and or worship a different way, but they would all kind of commonly agree on a handful of things, and that's what people got together with.
Well, and,
Yeah,
and
like,
you get something kind of similar with Greek.
Like for example, you have different chief gods. In fact, that's even kind of reflected in Norse mythology with Odin being kicked out
Tyr
of
versus
Valhalla.
Odin.
Well, not even Tyr versus Odin. Odin, I think, is in the Gesta Danorum, where Odin gets kicked out and Uller actually becomes the chief.
Right.
Well, we need to get we need to get a little bit closer back to topic. So that's kind of SPG is talking about, revelations that multiple people experience. My version of SPG, for anybody who's interested, by the way, was... First off, there was a thing that happened in Ocean Server, and I'm not going to get into too much detail, but that's kind of well known to anybody who hangs out there.
Right.
The second thing is, I had the UPG that Hermes was a deity heavily associated with ADHD, and have found that apparently several people within my own community actually felt the same way. And so we started digging into the lore to find a lot of different like bits and pieces about things that he represented. So that
That's
ended
awesome.
up actually coming closer to VPG than I would like.
Isn't there also a Greek UPG about Hermes liking chocolate?
That's actually Dinosos.
Ah,
But anyway, so now we're on to VPG since I just brought it up.
And then VPG would be verified personal gnosis, where you had something that you believed in, but you weren't sure why you believed in it. You were convicted of this belief so much that you started digging around in mythology and lore until you eventually figured out that yes, somebody else in history wrote this down, and you can verify that yes, this thing that you believed is a thing.
So, coming back to sort of our discussion of this woo, UPG becomes a problem when you start to pass it off as fact. Because
Right.
you don't have the VPG to back it up.
And I'm not even against somebody passing it off as fact as long as they don't start trying to make other people follow the same thing that you do, or forcing an entire group to practice the way that you do because of what you personally believe, despite not having evidence to back it up.
Well, and a lot of the people will manifest this as, well, I have some super special secret knowledge that will improve your life, and if you don't do things my way, you're missing out. I'll let you guys get into that a little more, but that's the issue that I take with stuff like this, and that sounds like, Cingeto, is that pretty close to what you were reacting to when you brought these videos to our attention?
that's part of it. There's another part though where it's also not just that they're trying to pass it off as some super special thing, but it's also about how damaging it can be potentially and how damaging it has been.
So I'll give a little bit of a personal story here. It Ocean and I had a local group that he and I kind of ran together with a group of other people. We left one group and formed our own. He, myself, and a handful of other people, and it ended up growing to like 300 or 400 members. I want to say we were between 300 and 400 members, and at any given time, at any public space, we would have upwards of 60 to 80 people show up in person for our monthly group rituals that we would do. So we ended up being a pretty big deal in our area. And the powers at play, people who wanted to seize control or power, or just, I don't know what their intentions were. I don't know what they thought that they were going to get out of it, but they started trying to push their UPG off as fact, and it was a minority, 3 or 4 people who were trying to say, no, you need to do this our way. We need to do this way. You're being exclusive by not accepting my UPG as fact here. I want to worship these deities in this way, and I want everyone else to be on board with it as well. And it ended up fracturing our group to the point that we disbanded the org. Like, we had gone all the way to having paperwork filed and tax information done and bank accounts opened and PO boxes opened, and we had to turn all of that off because of 3 or 4 people who wouldn't get their ducks in a row.
I think Loki might have had something to do with that personally.
Absolutely, it was when the Troth. Some people may know about this. When the Troth had their problems and minor schisms, it led into a problem in our own group as well. People wanting clarification on what our position on Loki was, and most people, when it comes down to performing group ritual, it comes down to consent and forcing a group of people to worship a deity, or allowing a deity to be hailed in a circle. When you bring that deity in, even if it's just one person, it brings it in for everybody. And not everybody jives well with Loki. I don't see why anybody would jive well with Loki at all, but that's my personal opinion that a lot of people happen to also share.
Hey, so
For good reason.
we've got Shay in the chat, and she wanted, Cingeto, can you do a quick, brief version of the definition of Starbucks pagans again for a couple of new people and for Shay, who just came? Hey, Shay.
Okay. Basically, and I'm going to trademark this before Ocean. Basically, a Starbucks pagan is a pagan that looks all nice and pretty on the outside, like a nice Starbucks cup, and has this great performance. It just seems like this average kind of, just this nice person and everything. And then really in the inside, they're just cheap Starbucks coffee. They're just basically they don't not that deep. They're just kind of doing this for the money. They're just trying to look all nice. It's really mostly like a con artist, like a snake oil salesman, somewhat of that.
Yep.
So I'm going to take a 30-second aside to answer somebody in the chat who keeps asking me questions that are a lot more detailed than I want to try to get into over text. Hellenism is specifically the reconstruction of the ancient Greek practices for the modern day. I'm more of a revivalist, which means that I update several of the practices for the modern day. In my practice, I'm not 100% this has to be absolute historical practice. For example, I often wrap my offerings rather than burning them because I don't have a burn pit, and it's very hard to get permits in my area to do burn pits because of forest fires and air quality problems and things. So, things of that nature. Basically, it is worshiping the ancient Greek gods. It's not based on a particular person. It's not one person that founded it. It is a reconstruction of the ancient religion as best as we can approximate it, the way it was practiced, but updated for the modern day as though Christianity hadn't killed it off. Same heathenry is the same for Norse deities. When people talk about Celtic Reconstructionism, it's the same. It's the reconstruction of these ancient religions as though they had not been wiped out by Christian hegemony.
Yep. Kind of picking off where they left off.
So, there we go. Coming back to the Starbucks pagans, what other harmful claims was this person making in that particular video before I post the next one?
I do not remember the other ones. Those were the main issues. Was the neural pathway manipulation claim, and then the stuff about manifesting things quantumly by diving into an instant and splitting time, and then choosing one of your alternate realities. Those are the main things, focus of that video.
So again, Iron Charioteer, Hellenism is not based on a deity. Hellenism is a reconstruction of an ancient full religion that involves many deities. I am a polytheist. Alright, ignoring the chat for now, unless there's a question related to the topic at hand. So the name of the video was Gem Goddess. Is there any particular reason for that?
Wait, her channel is Gem Goddess.
Okay. That's the name that popped up when I copied it.
Ah.
Oh, are those some of the fluffy bunnies that I've been seeing in the Patreon channel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, we're covering two of those videos, even though a couple of us haven't seen it. Cingeto's kind of giving us a summary and we're debunking. So the rewriting,
they're awful.
So the rewriting of the neuronal pathways thing, I have a feeling that that's based on some of the debunked research that was done forever ago about power posing and stuff like that, how one can trick neuronal pathways into believing a certain thing by faking it. Is that kind of similar to what she was claiming here?
That is what she said exactly. That's what she's talking about with the piano. If you pretend to put your fingers on the keys, you'll learn how to play the piano. Yes, that's everything she said.
Iron Charioteer, please save those questions for tomorrow night's Ask a Pagan stream on Nakasuji's channel. Or until the end, because we usually do question and answers at the end. So, as far as that's concerned, I can actually cite sources in the chat if people are interested, but that particular bit of research was debunked hardcore. Has anybody here heard about the sort of problem-shaking psychology at the moment about a lot of studies not being replicable? A couple of scientists went through and tried to replicate a bunch of the really big studies that we've all heard headlines about and couldn't. That study was on that list. So that whole idea of power posing, making you feel more confident, or telling yourself that fear is excitement, or shit like that, a lot of those studies have been debunked because people tried to replicate them and they couldn't. They didn't get the same results. So either the data was tampered with or it was a one-off.
Right.
So, again, this is a problem with Woo, and if you guys want to get into this, like, this is a really fun thing to discuss. But woo tends to tell just enough of the truth to make their batshit claims sound reasonable. And this is a case of that. One can say, oh, well, there is this study or there is this theory that exists, but your application of it is wildly out. And, you know, oftentimes the conclusions are taken much further than the research would actually intend.
Right.
So do you guys want to kind of expand on this a little bit? Because there's a lot of this problem in the pagan community.
I mostly see it with like that so-called law of attraction. That's the main part where I see it in. That and gemstones.
Woo is a huge problem, and it's, you know how folkism is an issue within heathenry? Well, woo is the biggest issue within CR, Celtic Reconstructionism. Because there's a lot of stuff that's been peddled around, a lot of fake stuff that people will make up. It may sound legitimate, but people will just put it there and stamp a Celtic stamp on it to make it sound natural, make it sound like it comes from the earth and from ancient tradition, but when it's really just something they made up or comes from like the 1800s during the romanticized period.
Right.
Well, I think there's also the habit of swaddling the claims in science that is either taken completely out of context or doesn't actually exist.
That is also a major problem I see all the time.
Like, a lot of people claim that quantum mechanics are what cause magic to work.
Which doesn't make any sense if you know what quantum mechanics are.
Now, keep in mind, I'm not denying that I'm not denying that magic works or doesn't work. What I'm saying is that trying to claim that quantum mechanics is the reason that it absolutely must is kind of fucking silly.
Yeah, no one's criticizing magic here. We're criticizing the explanations people are giving for it.
So, there was a second video, if you think we've kind of covered everything from the first one. Do you have anything major to say about that one? Let's see. I'm trying to see if I can actually find the link.
If I can remember, I can't remember if I finished that one or not, because I was thinking we were going to go over it and play it during the thing, but since we're not, that's fine. The main thing I remember her talking about, and the main thing I thought that one would be an issue, I haven't gotten to the point if she does discuss it. But the thing I think that would be an issue with that video would have been if she discussed how you're not good enough or things along those lines, and dangerous thinking like that when it comes to
Oh yeah, that reminds me of like spirit science, where spirit science said that if you get sick, it's your fault because you attract negative emotions.
So here's the other video. It says, "Make any wish come true within 30 days," which is one hell of a claim.
Oh wait, that's the different one, but the
That's the other one you sent me.
Hey,
you sent me Law of Attraction is not working, how to fix and master it, and then the other one is Make Any Wish Come True in 30 days.
Didn't you get the first one, the Law of Attraction one?
The Law of Attraction one was the one I sent.
All you have to do is say, "Oh, you didn't do it right."
Wait. Hold on. I think I sent you 3 of them. You didn't get 3?
I only got 2 that actually popped up with previews.
Okay, so the first one was the one I was talking about. I've been talking about. I guess that one doesn't have the thing on it. That first one I sent you was the one I was talking about with all that extra stuff. And then the second one about the Law of Attraction not working was the one I didn't fully watch. And then the third one, the Practical Witch, I can't remember if I fully watched it, but I still remember some of the bullshit from it because I watched the Stargirl one a while ago.
Alrighty, so let's go ahead and go over the second video then, the one that I accidentally posted the first link to, the Why the Law of Attraction Isn't Working and How to Fix It, which already smacks of victim blaming. Oh, if this woo isn't working, well, it's your fault, and here's why. That's a culty thing.
It's very culty. I think it's mostly to keep the people who are going to be pissed off from her previous claims when they don't work. It's mostly to keep them around and keep them trying so that they'll still pay her and she'll still get the money for the views. That's what I think that was engineered to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
The claim I remember from there, the main one that I remember, was about how if you focus on something too much, it'll ripple back. Or if you don't let it go and you think about it too much, it won't ripple back, because she describes vibrations as being the mechanism through quantum manifestation, just like how sound can make you poop or something. I remember her saying that. I don't know if that's true, but it sounds really stupid.
Okay, so I'm going to address Iron Charioteer. Again, save your questions either for the end or for the Ask a Pagan stream tomorrow. Like, if you continue to ask this sort of line of questioning, some of these questions are phrased fairly disrespectfully, I am going to time you out. I've asked you twice now. I'm being nice. I ain't gonna be nice anymore if you keep doing this.
So I can't see it. Go ahead and tell me what some of the questions are.
Is paganism a comfort mechanism? And what do polytheists think of the book The Secret? It says if you imagine something, it can come true. Which, if you're listening to the stream, we're actually talking about how we don't think that that's the case.
I think that's
Aaron, you should know that polytheism isn't a coping mechanism.
But like I said, this is why I'm giving the second warning. Like, I'm doing this verbally in case anybody else decides they want to start shit. Like,
Yeah, Aaron, you know better, man. Come on.
Save this stuff for the Ask a Pagan stream tomorrow, please, and keep your questions on topic. That's all I'm asking.
All right.
All right. So,
I was at the vibrations. Okay, yeah, she says that vibrations control everything, which does remind me. Have you all ever heard of what are they called? Those are the machines that supposedly cause vibrations to sync with
talking about
cancer.
tuning fork?
No, not tuning fork. It's like a big old machine.
Well, there's a version of that like supposedly if you vibrate your fat in certain areas, it'll break up the fat and make you lose weight. Like, people claim vibrations can do all kinds of crazy shit.
Yeah, I was trying to think of it's one that says you can cure cancer through vibrations. I know it's bullshit. One of my mom's old friends used to have one of these machines. I can't remember what it's called. I'll have to look it back up in a moment or two. But it's what she's saying reminds me of that. She's basically talking about how vibrations can control everything. It also reminds me of when I watched Finding Bigfoot on Animal Planet a long time, and they said that Bigfoot disappeared by syncing to different vibrational universes. But aside from all the, don't ask.
What the fuck? What are they on about? What?
Bigfoot's apparently interdimensional. But anywho, back to the
Fourth
vibration.
dimensional being. I mean, I don't see anything wrong here.
He's a tesseract.
You have to align your thoughts with the fourth dimensional quantum superplex, which forms a tornado that sends you into the fifth dimension.
So,
I've already done all that.
So, like with all woo, I'm going to try to get a little bit into some of the scientific shit for this. If you actually read The Elegant Universe and a few other of the books on the topic of string theory, basically the idea is that fluctuations through vibrating strings make up the fabric of space-time and the fabric of probability. So, like, when you talk about quantum mechanics, what causes... when you ask the question, well, what the fuck causes a proton to come into existence here and not there? And the answer from string theory is random vibrations of these tiny strings that make up the entirety of the fabric of the universe, and that by manipulating those strings, if you somehow could, which they are so tiny, they make up even the quarks of the atoms you would use to manipulate them, so it's basically impossible to do so, as far as anyone would understand. And again, this theory is so batshit, it's impossible to falsify. Like, there have been astrophysicists that are like, well, it's not even wrong. You can't even prove it wrong, because it's not possible to test it. So, like, what she's claiming here is that somehow your thoughts can manipulate those vibrating strings, which again is an unfalsifiable theory, in order to create the things that you want in your life. She's manipulating a potential explanation for like how probability can function and how quantum mechanics works, and trying to turn it into a profit, basically, for herself. And this is not an uncommon thing in the Woo community. Like, I've read this in a lot of Wicca 101 books, even, that this is how magic works.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah,
by the way,
also, I'm not saying anything wrong here. That sounds exactly how it works, doesn't it?
yeah, totally. We manipulate the strings of. I found the machine though. It's called a Rife machine. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah, I've got two of them. They work great.
Rife machine.
Yeah, they do exactly what I want them to. I'm able to transcend space and time.
They're supposed to kill cancer cells by vibrating at the cancer cell frequency.
Yeah, but how else? What better way to cure cancer than to
astral-
transcend space and time?
Why not just
can't get
astral
cancer if you're
project
an
so that
immortal
you don't
being.
have a body anymore to have cancer?
Exactly.
All right, Mr. Manhattan.
So
Sounds like you guys just need to get
I
better
don't get that
at not
reference.
having cancer.
Dr. Manhattan basically, I don't want to get into this. Okay, he basically went to a machine that destroyed all the four fundamental forces on his body, and now his mind is outside our dimension and controls space and time.
Right.
There you
That's
go.
hot.
There you go.
So, kind of coming back to this, another thing that I see sort of colliding with this in your explanation that you gave is the again, I sound like I'm picking on Wiccans, but I'm not. This is a thing. It sounds like she took.
Okay, you can pick on Wiccans.
Sometimes it's okay to pick on Wiccans for some of their shitty practices.
Well,
Putting
like
coins-
I know some good Wiccans who are very
No, I do
deeply
too.
into their faith,
We've
and
got
I
a
know
couple witches in our server who I respect heavily because they approach it honestly.
Yes, but a lot of folks when they first get in don't even have enough information to do that. But one of the things that I've read over and over in Wicca 101 books, because, spoiler alert, I used to be a Wiccan myself, is
What?
this. Yeah, I told
All
you
right, that's
that.
it. Aliakai's canceled.
Cancel.
Respect
I was already
lock.
canceled.
Double canceled.
Ulfer, you think you canceled her before I did?
Yeah, I was about to
No,
say,
right?
Yeah, that
Calon
reminds
banned me
me.
from my own
Calon, you're mine.
server. Calon banned me
He's
from my
Yeah,
own
you're
server.
canceled.
He's kidding.
So,
I was already canceled.
the concept,
That's beside the point.
the concept that I'm talking about here is this idea that if you fixate on a spell when you cast it, or if you're too specific about the exact outcome you want and how you want it to come about, you can block up the energy because the energy is trying to channel through too many pathways and it's going to get weighed down too much. You have to be more open about potentially getting something better than what you asked for. Or getting something slightly different or through a different pathway than what you can imagine. You have to kind of be specific about what it is you want, but not how you'll get it.
So basically the exact opposite of a genie.
Yeah, pretty much.
I don't remember her saying that specifically, but I do remember her saying that frequencies act like the ripples in a pool, or not ripples in a bathtub. And when they hit the wall, they bounce back. You have to give your request to the universe, and the universe will throw it back at you. And she says if you hold on to it too much, you don't throw it to the universe, so the universe can't give it back, and it stays.
Right.
Which is.
Well,
basically
that's kind of the similar
harder
thing to.
quantum manifestation, so that anyone who's dissatisfied can't do anything about it, and they're just gonna have to go back to her videos, and she keeps getting that cycle of money.
Well, and I mean, that's kind of similar to, like I said, kind of combining that whole quantum string weirdness thing that she's trying to, appropriate here with the idea of being overly specific and fixated. They say, cast your spell and let it go. That is a Wiccan thing. Like, that's give it to the universe will get you what it is you need. You have to have faith after that. If you fixate on it, you can weigh it down. It's very similar.
Yeah, it sounds very similar.
So, this feels, though, a lot like blaming the victim, right? Oh, well, you must not have cast the spell right. Or, oh, you were so fixated on it and so particular about it that it didn't manifest because you put too much weight on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same blaming the victim stuff. Do you guys want to get into that?
I've heard that used for diseases, actually.
Mm-hmm. And that's where we start to get into the dangers part of this discussion about woo, because when you get really desperate people who are very sick and substitute this shit for medical care, well, I'm sure somebody's got a story.
Yeah, actually, I heard spirit signs do that, where they said that all diseases are actually your fault because you attracted them via having these negative interactions and thinking these negative thoughts.
Just sounds like Thetans to me.
It's a curse.
I think Via died.
I think we
Yeah,
killed Via.
yeah, I did die. I smoked too much legal marijuana, and now I'm gonna sue the government for killing me.
Okay, that's fair.
So, Cingeto, it sounded like you wanted to pipe up with a story.
I have a few things. What was it? I went to this a long time ago. I went to this Christian. This isn't pagan woo, but it's Christian woo. I went to this thing called Be in Health. It was a conference about how to cure the demons causing your diseases. To their credit, this is not very much credit, but to their credit, they said not all diseases were caused by demons, so it's at least something. Not much, but it's something. I remember them talking about brainwaves and saying that the different brainwaves are different types of demons causing it, and you have to use your other brainwaves to kill out those demon brainwaves. I remember stuff like that. All right.
Well, I mean, this is woo is woo, right? Like, anybody can exploit any religion to a certain degree towards their own end. Like, anybody can exploit anything. Like, people exploit fake science all the frickin' time. There's an entire, like, for example, the pickup artist industry claims that it has understandings from evolutionary psychology that gives people an edge in getting laid, I guess. Right? Like, it's not just religion, it's anything that one can take on faith, because we're meant, we instinctively want to trust people that put themselves out as experts. And that's what people, on YouTube channels, including like ours, do. But when you start using that power to make claims that are not only not historically backed, but not even scientifically backed, like, that's when things get really dangerous. But I think pagans have our own specific version of that, and that's the wisdom of the ancestors claims. And I would love to let Calon or Wolf take this one on.
Wolfer?
I mean, I don't have any stories, not personally. I've heard, tons of stories, but yeah, I pretty much agree that any religion can do that, and anywhere between Christianity to paganism and everything in between is going to be able to do exactly that.
Have you seen any of those wisdom of the ancestors types claims on this particular channel? I know for a fact you get them all the bloody time. Like, spirit science is a wisdom of the ancestors claim. Like, the whole concept of the channel is.
Explain what you mean by wisdom of the ancestors, because I think I know what you mean, but I'm not sure. Like, are you saying, like, going back to a simpler time when the ancestors had all the answers and we're just stupid modern people? Is it like that kind of stuff?
Basically, the ancestors knew a bunch of shit that we didn't, and, like, science is trying to cover that up, and we've lost touch with the Earth, and we've lost touch with our real roots because something, the Illuminati or some shit. Like,
them darn kids playing them video games.
Yeah, it's this idea that, like, universally all of our ancestors knew something that we no longer do.
Yeah,
Or
they knew
just
about
like
the space Jews.
The Egyptians knew so much, and the Aztecs knew so much. They died protecting their secrets. It's like,
Calon, I can't tell if you said space Jews or space juice, and either way, it's kind of worrying.
Space Jews.
I said space Jews.
Science.
It's a reference to spirit science. Spirit science actually believes that Jews come from space.
Okay, what the absolute fucking shit?
So it sounds like Via's gonna react with Calon to that video. Does that sound like a volunteer to you?
Fuck yeah, it sounds like a volunteer to me.
Yeah, that sounds fair. It's a Spirit Science's history video.
Okay, I'll make sure I specifically don't watch that until we react to it.
So I need to get one of my animators from, like, one of the projects that I'm involved in to make a gigantic air quotes animation that I can just play at random when we're doing reactions. It's history. Mm-hmm. Like, can you guys hear my italicized dripping sarcasm, or do we need one of the others that's better at it to make it more obvious?
I think you got it covered.
You're fine with sarcasm.
Apparently people can't hear when I'm being sarcastic half the time. So, Cingeto, we need to get back to the actual video, because we went off on another tangent. Did you hear any of those kinds of, like, wisdom of the ancestors type claims, or is it all modern day woo science?
Sounds like just modern day woo science. I didn't finish it though, so that's the only other caveat. But it's mostly, I didn't hear any of the wisdom of the ancestors stuff. They don't seem like that kind of a person though to do the wisdom of the ancestors stuff, from at least what I've seen.
Well, that's good at least. I mean, there's a half a point back after the massive deduction of negatives. So, do you think we're at the let's have a chat about why this stuff is so incredibly harmful portion of the discussion?
We could talk about that. I think we've covered it a decent amount already, but we can dive more into it.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that we started to kind of touch on, and then I backed away from so that we could talk about some of the other issues in the video, is this idea that if you create your own success, you must have also created any of the negative things or failures that have happened in your life. In other words, if you can create a positive coincidence, it means that you're also responsible for all of the negative ones. Blaming people for their children being born, either disabled or other, stillborn,
And
etc. Blaming people for their disease.
yeah, all that kind of stuff.
I mean, this would be a great time to play off of this because you guys were the ones who really wanted to do the dangers of woo stuff. Like, I know that we've seen a lot of this in our community.
I know that at the Be in Health conference I went to, they discussed how apparently the sins of the generation, that stuff in the Bible, the sins of the generation, there's about how that stuff can manifest in ADHD in kids and can cause that.
Yep.
It's because of a demon that caused the ADHD, and you have to pray the demon out.
Excuse me, I am not the result of a demon possession.
Are you sure? Can you prove that?
I might have to disagree with that one.
So you can prove that you're not a hallucination?
I actually can. I can prove that I'm not an hallucination because no hallucination would ever be this wild. Yeah.
No hallucination could have a beard
hallucinations
this
are way
nice.
fucking meaner than you are, and that's saying a lot.
Yeah, neither of you have lived in my head very long. So, but, like, in all seriousness, like, this sort of thing, it's important for us that are not caught up in this. Because, let's face it, even people who are otherwise very, and I'm going to use this word very carefully, people who are otherwise very rational, people who are very educated, even otherwise quote-unquote normal people that you would not expect to get caught up in this kind of conspiracy theory woo nonsense, can be susceptible to it given the right conditions. Desperation. Another big one is just enough pseudoscientific sounding stuff. Like Jordan B. Peterson's crap is a really good example of this. A lot of otherwise, decent people have gotten caught up in his wave of garbage because he said enough pseudoscientific sounding stuff in his word salad for people to slowly be lulled into complacency. And you see stuff like this with YouTube channels in our own community.
Mm-hmm. Not going to name any names, even though I'm so tempted.
So do we want to have a quick conversation about how to inoculate yourself against it? Because I know that goes into every sort of major woo type topic.
The best way to inoculate yourself against it, I'd say, is to research a lot of this stuff.
Well,
yeah, you
also,
just gotta kind of be educated and actively like double check everything that you hear that you don't already, have a lot of facts on. Like as soon as you hear something that you're just like, I don't know about that. Can I have a, you can very politely, do you have a source on that? Or do you have something that I'd read? I'd love to know more about it.
I do have.
There's also this idea within philosophy about semantic coherency. Basically, that means if I call a square a circle or circle a square, there's no way semantically that you can interpret that, given the definition of square and circle, that can make that sentence true. So in other words, if it doesn't make sense like that, then chances are it's true. So if I go and say the quantum storms of the fifth dimensional topology influence the brain waves to do X, none of that makes any semantic sense. It's a word salad.
What were you trying to say, Cingeto?
I was trying to say I do have a story about where I was stupid and didn't research a person I was reading on academia.edu and got into a bunch of bullshit about Celtic stuff, which ended up just being just complete and utter crap with nothing to back it up that I could find. But I was being very naive then, and I wasn't thinking straight, and that was in my earlier years. There was a guy, Gerald Boutet, I hope that's how you say his name, and he was doing certain writings and stuff. And it sounded legit from what I could hear because it was comparing certain Indo-European patterns and Vedic things towards Celtic stuff. But then when I actually looked into it and brought it to some friends, he showed me how much of the etymology was just bullshit and based off of similar sounding first letters. Like these names both start with T, so they must be the same. And other shit like that. And I could see where he got some of his stuff from, but it was super shaky, and he butchered a lot of it. Because I brought it to other people for them to examine, and since they knew a lot better than I, they figured out how stupid it was. So that's another way to inoculate yourself, to bring it to other people who you know are more knowledgeable.
I think one of the biggest red flags for woo type claims, at least for me being a reconstructionist, I know some folks that are a little more eclectic may not feel this way, but anything that starts to promise results, like anything that is fixated more on what you can get out of it than than say worshiping or celebrating the gods, tends to be a bit more iffy to me. Like, it's one thing if you're reading, like, say, a magical instructional handbook or something, but a lot of the time, a lot of this woo stuff comes off more like a get-rich-quick scheme than it does, like, an actual celebration of the gods or any sort of religion. Like, is that unfair to say? Is that out of left field?
No, I wouldn't say so.
It's true. A lot of it is because people are desperate and they want to use the occult and other things like that to get power instead of using it for a greater purpose, such as spiritual enlightenment and better understanding. People want to use it for their own selfish needs. So people play on that for their own selfish needs, ironically, and get money out of it.
Calon, do you have anything to say about that?
Nothing that I haven't already agreed with. And yeah, I mean, like I said, the main thing for me is if I can't, so to speak, visualize in a way how a process is going to go about, or if it doesn't make any semantic sense, if it's just a word salad, then that is a huge red flag to me.
Well, and this is where things like The Secret, people are chatting about ableism in the live chat over there, but I think that that's a really good point. There are actual disorders that make it so that you cannot visualize pictures. Like, you can't think visually. What are people supposed to do that can't do that, or that haven't developed that particular cognitive ability very well?
Yeah, that is a problem. The main thing that I guess would recommend, because from what I hear, words still make sense even if you can't visualize them, is to, I guess, just open a dictionary or scroll through like meanings in your head if you can, and see if it makes sense. If it doesn't, then yeah, you start asking questions, and that will lead you down a path that will help you tease out any woo.
Well, I think you missed what I was saying. What I was saying was claims like The Secret or Shakti Gawain's creative visualization. How would that work for somebody who has that particular disorder? Like, if this is a universal human power, it's clearly not, and that makes the concept itself ableist and at least partially suspect.
Well, yeah, of course it is. Their demographic isn't aimed for disabled people. It's aimed for young, naive teenagers.
So, what are some other red flags that you guys can say pick up? Like, as far as we talked about pseudoscientific claims for studies that are not backed, or studies that when you go look up the study, that's not what it says. And the other thing was promising results without any sort of real tie to a, particular faith. What are some other sort of like red flags that you can see for woo to kind of like try to inoculate yourself against it? What are some other red flag like phrases or other things you've seen?
When I hear the word astral child.
When I hear that,
if they bring up the brand Young Living essential oils, just to run the opposite direction.
What are you talking about? Young Living is completely scientifically sound, Via.
Cancel Cingeto.
I'm gonna fucking kill you, Cingeto. I hope you realize I will fucking find you down in gay Georgia or wherever you live, and I will kill you.
No, Via, it's Bug Georgia.
Not mention people's locations on the stream, y'all.
Yeah, let's not talk about where each other lives on the stream if we can help it.
Got it. No doxing Cingeto.
And Via is part of, and Via has pledged herself to our robot overlords yet again.
There we go. Another sign I'd say I've noticed would be when they're in panic when you don't believe them, or they're trying to make you believe them, forceful things, because it usually implies that they'd be trying. They have a goal in mind when you believe, so that they're trying to get you to believe. Because like usually, if someone is confident in their own truth, they're not going to usually care too much if you believe. But if someone has a ploy in mind when they get you to believe something, they're going to be more assertive in trying to get you to believe it, and they're going to try to force it onto you and things like that. That's usually a good sign of someone who is trying to spew bullshit and get something out of you from that.
So, I think another really good sign would be claims of results in X amount of time or less. Like, that one video has the clickbait title, How to Make Any Wish Come True in 30 Days or Less. You can't guarantee any fucking thing is going to happen in 30 days or less.
Yeah, well, not with that attitude.
Days or less.
Exactly. I can guarantee you that the sun won't go out within 30 days. There.
But what if a massive comet hits it?
That would have to be a pretty damn big comet that
What
would
if Jupiter
influence
hits
the
it?
entire gravity.
How is Jupiter
That's
going to?
impossible.
Nothing is impossible if you manipulate the quantum field.
I'm
Doesn't
also
even
still
make-
pretty sure that Jupiter would do like nothing to the sun's
Yeah, I
output
wouldn't
of
do anything
energy.
to the sun.
It would go poof.
It
It
can
would
happen if you
ignite
dream
and
it,
then just
guys.
be
Come
gone.
on. We all watch the video, I
You don't have
think.
to dream about what's that? What's the comet that was supposed to hit Earth? Nibiru or something?
Oh god, Nibiru. Don't start
Nibiru.
that shit.
Everyone, the world's gonna end in 2013. Better get ready.
Nibiru is real. I'm telling you. We just can't see it with our current technology. It's hidden by the quantum
Right, we can
strings.
view black holes, but we can't view Nibiru. Okay.
So,
Because
coming...
Nibiru is actually secretly a black hole, just the size of a planet.
It's made of the same stuff.
Guys, it's all just a projection on the dome that covers the flat Earth.
Okay, but
Yeah.
no, guys, we're all just holograms on the surface of a black hole, and we've forgotten it because we're playing out these lives over and over and can't forget our histories.
All right, y'all sheeple. I'll tell you. No one exists but me, and y'all are
Also,
all
that
just.
proves that the Earth is flat because it's a hologram, and holograms are flat. Anyway,
True.
so coming back to things though, what are some other big red flags that you guys have noticed in these sorts of claims? I think one of the big ones is refusing to cite sources.
We're citing
At
sources
this
like blog.
point, like whenever I ask for sources, I just sound like an angry atheist. And there's literally nothing I can do.
I think that it's important though to bring that up because if somebody doesn't have sources either in the video description or citations that you can go look up yourself in the back of the book, that's a pretty big sign. Also, if they're claiming to have super secret or super special knowledge, which we alerted to earlier, but we have a lot more viewers right now than we did when we were first talking about it. If they claim that they're the only ones who know about it, or if they allude to, say, ancestors knowing about it or other faiths knowing about it, but not this specific, not until today when this person is telling you about it, that's another pretty damn big sign. In fact, that's a pretty damn big sign of very cultish language.
Hey, so I just got word from my ancestors about this super secret magical liquid oil, in fact, that will cure cancer.
It's called snake oil.
No, even though I do have a snake, I wouldn't be that cruel to a
Company
snake.
called Young Living. It's been around since.
It's lizard oil.
It's lizard oil.
That's not much better.
So
So
what you're saying
I just
is...
got a message from my ancestors that I need to go. So I have to listen to
Thank you.
them. If it's the only way that I can continue my pagan practices is if I obey what they say.
All right, well, thank you for joining us, Wolf. We're actually going to be wrapping up the stream here pretty soon, though I would like to open up the room to a couple of questions before we head out, if anybody has on-topic questions.
Stay on topic, guys. Love you, bye.
Wait,
Love
what's
you, Wolf.
topic?
See you, Wolf.
See you, Oliver.
So, does anybody have any on-topic questions? I know I gotta let the chat take a half a section to kind of respond, because we've got a little bit of a delay. But does anybody
Please.
want to ask
Well,
us
yeah,
anything
I have
about
a question.
Starbucks Pagans?
Wait, I have a question.
Why haven't we banned Cingeto
When are you
yet?
getting a what?
What?
When are you getting a snake?
If I can find an egg-eating snake at some point, because I can't do rats and mice.
What about a
I'm
garter?
getting one within the next 2 months. It's fucking great.
We already have a northern alligator lizard. We have to take care of her.
Aw.
Send
So,
pics or it's fake.
lol, Tony Designs. Ha, if Calon was selling snake oil, you'd kind of have to believe her. Calon is a snake. She'd be selling her own oil.
Yeah, that would be weird.
I mean, that sounds pretty much like Gamer Girl bathwater, but pagan version.
Navia, no.
No!
Let's try to stay monetized. Let's not bring that up.
So,
Monetized?
So I take it. Hey, Spatial Anarchy, I just noticed your thing. We were talking about Starbucks pagans, woo, and how harmful claims of woo can be when you actually realize how vulnerable people often apply them. E.g., things like the law of attraction being applied to, say, somebody who has cancer who might substitute it for actual medical care. So, apparently I'm not seeing any questions in the chat. Do you guys have anything more on the topic y'all want to talk about?
Yeah.
I
Wait,
want to
no,
talk about
never
our
mind. I
Lord
can't
and
say
Savior
that on here.
Quetzalcoatl.
I mean, he's the lord of the sixth sun, and supposedly next year we're supposed to shift into the next age, I guess?
Age
Oh,
Armageddon.
well, that will be when the American Empire falls because
It's
there has to be a huge
when the
disaster.
revolution is coming. Wait, no, Revelations is coming. I was thinking anarchist shit. Crap.
So we
Yeah,
do
no.
actually have an on-topic questions, from Witchy Poo. The answer is yes, actually. If you're not extremely diligent, it's very, very easy to get sucked into woo. Particularly if you don't go and check the actual sources that are cited, or if you accept claims that don't have sources cited in them, it is very, very easy to get caught up in the, well, for lack of a better way to put it, egotistical sort of high that one gets from having what they believe to be secret knowledge, which is, the other side of the desperate people that these people tend to prey on. There's people who are desperate for any sort of answer and feel like they're helpless, and those are folks that are susceptible to this. But there's also the allure of the forbidden. The allure of the super secret, oh, they don't want you to know this, but I know. And the ego trip that comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
Calon, do you want to go into that a little bit? Because again, we've actually seen that in our own community.
Hey, so I got this secret that nobody else knows. And it'll make you huge money within a instant. What you have to do is run around your house naked with green wax. And that'll do it.
But yeah, people can be susceptible to woo claims even if
and
they're
yeah,
otherwise
no.
skeptical people.
Oh, yeah. No. That was part of the joke. Yeah, you can't. It's very easy to fall into. That's why you have to have good philosophical grounding.
Well, woo falls into the same category when it comes to, like, evidence-produced or not as, like, conspiracy theories. Extremely intelligent people, extremely educated people, that can easily fall into conspiracy theories in a way because they're too smart for their own good. They see a whole bunch of data and it looks like it connects, and so that part of your brain that wants to make all of those connections goes, aha, as you're led down that path. And if you don't do additional research to verify it, or if you train the algorithms and such for Google and other things, this is honestly one of the disadvantages of our tech culture, right? If you end up doing so much research to try to confirm it that you end up training the algorithm to only show you things that confirm your bias, it's very easy to get trapped into a spiral of, well, I have tons of proof, even though what you really have is a whole bunch of claims without the substantiation behind it. It's really when you're first exposed to the claims that it's the easiest to not fall into. Because
Exactly.
the deeper you get into anything, much like a cult, right? When you first get into any sort of religion or when you first get into any sort of like practice, that's the easiest time to get out. But the further you've invested, the more time you've invested, the more energy you've invested, the more research you believe you've done, the more you're going to end up believing in it because you have invested that much. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it's what Scientology uses to actually make money. They use that same principle. If you go to like any Scientology org and you ask them about Xenu, they're not going to have a clue what you're saying because they don't first show out the wooish beliefs when you first get in there. You're gradually induced into it.
You don't learn about Xenu until you're in like OT3.
Yeah, because knowledge of Xenu is so great that it would make your head explode. So yeah, I just killed y'all. Bye.
All right. So from the chat to you, Calon, your mic.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the big thing. Is it's important to inoculate yourself against woo claims early and to stay skeptical. And again, this is coming from a group of polytheists, which a lot of folks in this community like to say, "Oh, you guys will just accept anything." That's not necessarily the case. Like, there are ways to stop yourself from that and still have faith in the gods if that's what you want to do. Like, you don't
I'm
have
still
to believe
skeptical
that...
about this being called reality. I'm not sure it exists.
Yeah. I mean, like, the skeptics in Greece supposedly could walk off of cliffs because they doubted the existence of whether or not the ground would hit them.
I'm not sure it would hit them, actually, now that I think about it.
But
I'm just skeptical of everything.
in all seriousness, there's a reputation that pagans are very new agey and that a lot of us will just unquestionably accept things like The Secret or magic or crystal healing or what the fuck ever.
And these YouTubers are why we have that reputation.
But as we remind everybody at the end of every stream, that's not the case. Paganism isn't a monolith, and all of us here at Styx and Stonehenge are here to remind you with every one of our videos, be skeptical of these sorts of claims. Somebody else's deity experience doesn't necessarily require your belief. You can believe that it's real for them and not go and worship their gods. You can hear claims like there's quantum reality and, and it can cause magical things to happen if you know how to manipulate it, and go dig into the person's sources and decide it's bunk. You don't have to keep your mind so wide open that your brain falls out.
Exactly.
Before.
So, does anybody have any final thoughts on the topic that they want to cover?
Not really.
I have one final thing to add, and it's Calon, your mic.
Mm-hmm.
One last answer for Iron Charioteer. A monolith means a universal, group in this context. So when I say paganism is not a monolith, what I mean is if you ask 10 pagans the same questions, you're more likely going to get 10 different answers. That's one of the reasons why Styx and Stonehenge is the way it is. We all practice different faiths, but we are all pagans.
The paganism is strong.
Which reminds me, that gets me right into our sort of discussion of things coming up TM. So I see a lot of Naka's mutual fans in the chat, so I'm sure any of you who are in the Discord know that this is coming up. But tomorrow, Calon Wolf and I, along with Chris, and potentially, unfortunately, one of our guests ended up exiting the community as of late, so we're trying to find another, but Cingeto thinks that he may have found someone, or he might come
Pick
himself.
me!
We're going to be on Nakasuchi's channel for an Ask a Pagan stream, where after doing a couple of questions from Patreon, if Naka got any, he hasn't let me know yet, we are going to have a conversation with the chat and answer any, and I'm going to stress this, respectfully worded and intellectually honest questions about our various faiths. So it's going to be kind of like a Styx and Stonehenge open room, but we're going to have Chris, the biblical history skeptic, on to talk about Canaanite religion, and, as I said, potentially another Celtic polytheist who will be on to discuss their particular faith. So if you've ever had any burning questions about the way that we ask, I'm going to be about the way that we practice, or anything else, I'm going to be moderating a room full of a whole heap of us, all from very different perspectives. So that's exciting. Also on Naka's channel next week, I'm going to be hosting up to 4 different Christians/atheists who want to have a go at me. It's going to be Ali versus the room. So that's going to be a buttload of fun. It's going to be a dumpster fire because Naka is not a moderator and he's going to try to be one anyway. So there's that. Calon and I...
You should listen to you more.
Calon and I are working on our spirit science rebuttal video. We're about halfway through working on it. We've got a little bit of recording we still need to do, and I've got some editing that I need to learn how to do, so apologies if it's rough, because this is all new to me. I'm attempting to learn an entire new program as we are doing this, so again, things will get better as we go. But Calon and I are going to be going at spirit science over the absolute garbage that they are spewing about Sumerian mythology and the weird astrological shit that they're tying it to, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Then she gets to turn around and torture me as I have to explain that iron and potassium are indeed not macronutrients, and if you ate them on the level you did macronutrients, you'd be dead very fast.
But they are. I'm sorry, what?
So
I think I'm about to get canceled.
So that is coming, and apparently we had a volunteer from VIA to cover the spirit science, another of the spirit science videos where they effectively blame you for all of your problems. So that's coming down the pipeline. Cingeto, you were working on a series on Celtic polytheism as well, weren't you? I mean, we saw the first one on Samhain recently.
I'll be having the holiday series, and I'm also working on the Dayway video, but that's going to take it's going to be a while because I also have to get out the animated video beforehand. I want to, at least.
So, yeah, by the way, if you guys have not seen Cingeto's Samhain video, also known as his video on All Hallows Eve, check that shit out. He worked his ass off on it, and it is boss. So if you're a fan of ours and you have not gotten a chance to check that out, you are missing out. That said, if you guys haven't given the video a like yet, please do so. It helps us get into the algorithm, and since we're going to be doing a lot more edited content pretty soon, we're hoping to help get the channel to grow a little bit. So if you guys haven't gotten a chance to do that, please do so. If you're not subscribed, what the hell are you doing here? Make sure you subscribe and ring the notification bell, especially because we are working extremely hard on improving content for you guys. Also, if you're a part of our Discord, then we are looking for requests on videos you guys would like us to respond to, or topics you want us to cover in our live streams. I know that right now live streams are the bulk of our content, but given that we're kind of unique in the fact that we have 5 different polytheists who come and chill out and just chat about stuff every single week, we want to know what kind of stuff y'all want us to chat about. If you like our anti-woo stuff, we'll do more of that. If you guys really, really like our politics stuff, I would be surprised, but you guys we're happy to do more of that. If you guys want to hear more about specific topics within the community, etc., then we're happy to do that. Give us some feedback, let us know, shoot a message to any one of the 5 of us, and we'll make damn sure that it makes it into the group chat so we can try to get it scheduled sometime. This show is
just
for you guys.
Just not Cingeto because he's canceled.
This show's for you all, okay? So make sure that if you've got something that you want to see, let us know. I mean, hell, even drop a comment and let us know in one of our videos. We'll pick it up. We see everything. We get notifications. We're not big enough that we won't notice.
We don't get enough comments to not be able to read all of them.
Yeah, pretty much.
I read all of them in the car.
So, anyway,
don't use your phone and drive, kids.
So with that, we are finishing up. Thank you so much for hanging out with us for a bit. We're going to be heading over to the after show if anybody wants to meet us over in Discord. And it was fun to chill with you guys. Have a good night.
Mm-hmm.